And welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
And Daniel.
And Daniel.
And we'll see if this keeps going. Alright, listeners of the podcast, we're having some troubleshooting, some difficulties. We're just going to go for it. We're speed running it. We're a little tired. We're a little sore. We took a trip yesterday. Tell them about our trip.
Yeah, we went to Tucson, which is about a 4-hour drive from us, to do a bookbins run is what we talk about. We usually only ever do them in Januaries. We wanted to do it like in the middle of the week just to see what was going on, put some mileage on a vehicle. Honestly, I had a blast. We went to some board game shops. We did our bookbins run. We got rid of games that weren't going to get played and brought games back that we want to try. And we'll see what happens there. It was actually quite fun. It was you, me, Gamehead Geek.
We came back with some really fun stuff. And unfortunately, our friend Dammit Dom couldn't join us, but he normally needs to. It normally tries to, but family things happen. But it's okay. We got to make fun of him by posting our pictures of all of our new games. And
Gamehead Geek was a little too nice. He didn't do that.
He didn't do that? Well, I just think he forgot.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's be honest. He probably forgot. Either way. So this is today's episode. We're going to be talking about a really weird...
Yeah, you and your weird subjects, man.
Me and my weird subjects. I'm okay with that because here's what we're doing. We're doing the best senses in board gaming. And, we're going to be more clear on that. How did you word it in our title?
I worded that games that invoke the senses.
Yeah, so what do we mean by that? We're talking about things that are, other than sight normally. We're trying to stay mostly away from that. But what about the other senses, and how are they involved in games? Yep. What about feel? What about, there was sight. What about smell, touch, taste? Mm-hmm. All of the different senses, and any others that we happen to include on it. How are they treated in different board games? Or in gaming in general?
Yes. So
that's what we're going to be talking about today, and we hope, I was kind of inspired because of one very specific thing that we'll be talking about soon. At the top of my list, it'll make way more sense then. But there's plenty of different examples of this, and you know what I'm talking about. If you're into gaming, you know that there's just one little thing where you're like, every time that happens, oof.
Yeah.
It's almost like ASMR for board gamers, right?
In a sense, yeah. It's such a hard topic, too.
It's weird.
Because the way you originally worded it to me, and that's how I went about making this list, was that invoke the other senses other than sight.
Right.
So I have the other 4 senses. I do have 2 sight honorable mentions that I'll mention at the end of the podcast just to reference that one, but it's more along the lines that all mine, I have 2 for each sense. So 2 for taste, 2 for smell, 2 for touch, and 2 for hearing, sound.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yep. I have 1 for smell, 2 for sound, 1 for sight, 2 for feel, 1 for taste, and 1 as another. I'll explain it when I get to it. Yeah. It's kind of my cheaty pick as usual. We always have to have at least one cheaty pick.
Well, right? I don't have a single cheaty pick. I just the senses that
they're all cheaty picks.
The smell and the taste ones. It's just more abstracted than anything because I am not about to lick a board game.
Right. So let me tell you, we're playing stamp swap. Put it on.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Tile, do not lick my board game. Gamehead Geeks is fine because he has a copy too.
That's fine. Fine. Well, the next time he does it, it's like, all right, I'm going to put it on this inlaid board.
There you go.
Gross. There you go.
The funny thing is, too, you don't have to lick stamps anymore.
I know, right?
They're self-adhesive.
They're just a sticker, right?
Yeah.
It's so awesome. All right, but before we do that, we also want to announce that we're going to be having a contest sometime during today's episode. Mm-hmm. We will be giving you a code word. So we'll go into full details later on, but there's a bunch of different ways you can sign up. You can email us by letting us know. You can join us on Twitch, even though it's having troubleshooting. Subscribe to us on YouTube and a whole bunch of other things like Instagram, all that.
And we'll explain that after our segment.
Yeah, and we're going to be giving away a free copy of Ultimatch from Fireside Games, a new cooperative card game from the makers of Castle Panic and all around just amazing people. Anne and Justin.
Do it.
Or Anne-Marie.
Do it.
Do it. And Justin, You broke my brain halfway through that statement. Yes.
Anyways,
I'm blaming you.
This is my copy of Ultimatch. This has been opened. You get a sealed copy. It's right up there in that cornucopia. That's the one that you guys will be winning. It is Continental USA only.
All right. So, shall we get into today's episode?
We shall.
Daniel, what have you been playing?
So, we have quite a few games in here that I want to talk about. There's going to be some that still deal with the Halloween segments that we did because we played a lot of spooky games during Halloween time. The one I want to talk about, though, is not a Halloween game. We mentioned it in the last podcast because Gamehead Geek always brings these dudes on the map games, and he
really does.
And you're like, you're not familiar with the IP. You're not familiar. Or you're familiar with the gameplay. You're not a big Ameritrash player.
Right.
But everybody had fun with this one, and this one is Masters of the Universe, the board game. It is a He-Man universe game. Mind you, I didn't grow up in the He-Man world. And it's funny because Gamehead Geek is a big He-Man fan, and he's younger than me. He-Man was around my generation, but not so much. It was a little earlier generation. He's a big He-Man fan because he's got an older brother who's about 6 years older than him, which means he's about a couple years older than me, who was big into He-Man. Me, I'm a Ninja Turtle guy, so never got into He-Man. But it was a fun little Ameritrash, dice chucking. We need to take care of this before we got our butts kicked by Gamehead Geek because he is playing the bad guys. I like the fact that it's a very scenario-based game. It's one versus many. What I find intriguing about this game, it is one versus many. There's different scenarios. You have different ways you can win. But the one player could play the heroes or they can play the villains. And us as characters can play either the bad guys and try to defeat the heroes or be the heroes in our specific one, the scenario, protect the king and win the game that way. I liked how easily it happens. Like every character has a controller side, which is the one person that controls everything. It's called controller, and then the other one is the player side. And so you can play. I can play as Skeletor, or in our case, Damn It Dom played as He-Man.
Yep.
And Gamehead Geek was playing the bad guy, so he had Evelyn and I forget what the other guy, Skeletor. I forget what the other guy was, but again, I'm not familiar with the IP. But
neither am I.
It was his pick. He decided he wanted to play this one. He was very disappointed the fact that he didn't get into the Kickstarter, and he has been trying to get all the stuff for He-Man. Like we were, speaking of which, on our trip. Every time we were at a board game store, he was looking through their He-Man stuff, see if they had anything that he hadn't had gotten yet, because he bought all his through eBay.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get his stuff. And honestly, I have to say, it was actually quite a fun game. I really did enjoy my play of it. Now, is it something I need to go for? Not really. I play it again, happily. But one, I'm not a big fan of the IP. I'm fine one way or another. It doesn't bother me any. And it's not going to make me go out and learn the lore of He-Man and stuff like that. It was a good game, and I'm glad we played it. I have no problem playing it again if Damn It Dom or Gamehead Geek want to bring it out. But honestly, I found it a good game, but nothing I need. Masters of the Universe, the board game.
Yeah, and I played that as well. And again, I'm not a fan of like dudes on a map kind of beat each other up.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this one. It was shenanigans. I did like that. One player plays all of the characters and how they can trade it out.
Yeah.
That's rare, And it did have some stand-up moments. So it's like I agree. It was not so good that I want to go seek out He-Man stuff and be part of the IP and learn about it. But I did enjoy it, and I would play it again.
And the thing I have to say about what I really liked about the game, now that you mentioned it, is the way it determines like turn order.
Yeah.
So he puts his characters down, face down, and we don't know who he's activating first. And then we decide as a group who should go first, who should go here. And since we're playing a one-man short, we put a character at the very end, and then we decide who's going to go last. So we see how the board lays, and then be like, damn it, Dom, you should take this turn. Or Daniel 2, this is you. This is all you, number 2. That kind of thing. So I did like that. I thought that was a really smart choice.
Absolutely. Cool. The first game I wanted to talk about is brand new. I mean, brand spanking new. It just got into the...
Just keep going.
Just got into the shop right now. Or not even shop. I just got it in the mail like maybe last week.
Yeah.
This is from my friends over at Thing 12. This is Puppy Pile. Puppy Pile from Thing 12. The brand new game from their lineup. This is kind of a hidden role, kind of like movement game, as best as you can say. Did you ever play Guillotine back in the day?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's similar to that, except you're not knocking off cards like every few turns, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're literally just manipulating a pile, trying to maneuver any dogs you want to. Certain dogs will move whenever you tell them to. Certain dogs will move only if they share a certain trait. And so on your turn, you just have a pile of action cards. You flip over the top one, do what it says.
Mm-hmm.
If it says move any dog up one space, you're moving them away from the pile, the bed, and that's where the bottom of the pile is. And the other opposite end is the top of the pile. As you're continuing and playing these actions, there's one point where a card will come up where it says pick a winner, and whoever is on the top, whichever dog is on the top of that pile, you ask everybody, all right, let's say it's the corgi, anybody the corgi, and if somebody's the corgi, they win immediately. Otherwise, they're discarded and removed from the game, and play continues until one player is crowned the winner. And there's some pretty wild actions too. Like it'll say like take the dog that's on the bottom of the pile and like put it anywhere in the pile, or move the bed to the other side of the row, and that is now the new bottom of the pile. Stuff like that. It's an interesting little game. It plays some interesting stuff. Definitely adorable. In
It
fact,
looks good.
There's two things that they did that I really appreciated. One is that like the dogs that they got, the art is absolutely fantastic, and they have corgis, they have husky, they have a mutt, all sorts of different ones. But they have one that was kind of funny, where it says definitely a real dog or something like that, and it's a cat in a dog costume. It's like why? I mean, why not? But why?
Yeah, yeah.
But the best part about it that I really enjoyed is that on the cards that you pass out to all the players that tell you your secret dog, whichever one you are, it has a name spot and it's blank. So you can name your cards and name your dogs. So I thought about naming the dog that was a Chihuahua, a Yumi, because I had a Chihuahua named a Yumi.
Okay.
I was like, that can make it a really special game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what a cool little idea. It's like, technically, it becomes a legacy game at that point.
Yeah.
But, you could take the Husky and put
your
Draco,
physical
right?
copy, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's an heirloom at that point. And I thought that was a really cool thing. I enjoyed it. It's a good, simple little game. Great family game. That's Puppy Pile by Thing 12.
It looks really interesting. I do have a copy. I got mine in the mail, too. I haven't got to play it yet.
Yeah.
I literally got it, and then we went on our trip, and so I haven't played any games since last Wednesday.
I should also give a caveat, just so everybody knows. That wasn't a review. I did genuinely enjoy it, but I do have to specify that they are publishing my games, so take whatever you assume is bias there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so the next game I'm going to talk about, and this is one of those Halloween games I was talking about earlier, and I was shocked that I haven't played this game in roughly 3 years. I think 2021 was the last time I played this game. And I really dig this game. I have a good time with this game. And my wife decided she wanted to play this. This was one of her picks when we went over to our other game group. And this is Mysterium.
Ooh, I played that not too long ago, but yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, it is such a fantastic game. It plays really well. We actually can play 2 quick games of it. Did really well on the first game. Second game, we struggled a little bit more, so there was that. But all in all, we still won both times. The first time was unanimous decision when we got to the second part of the phase. The other one was a 2-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
And so it's such a fantastic game. I love the artwork in this game. I love how simply it plays, too. It's basically, this is what you're trying to figure out, is who the murderer is, who the weapon is, or what the or location, the weapon, and the ghost is giving you clues. We always play it on normal. This way they have the 3 crows throughout the game. This case they have to wipe. My personal favorite of this game is like when you get to the point where you're all the way to the top, he still has to hand cards to players even though they're done, and uses it as like a free crow.
Yep.
So I like that aspect. It was a fun game. I'm glad I got to play it again. Especially, it's a perfect Halloween game. It
really is.
You put some really good horror lo-fi in the background, like spooky haunted house music. It does really well. So Mysterium, I'm glad I got it to the table again.
The next game I wanted to talk about is a game that I was sent a promotional copy through a demo program that I'm part of, and I was very excited to try it because I've heard it's self-described as the greatest card game in the world. And this is Flip 7 from the Op. I mean, with a name with a description like that, right? A tagline saying it's the greatest card game in the world. It's not. But we know that, right? And
yeah.
But that doesn't shy away from the fact it's like, yeah, look how bold this is. It's in a shiny cover. The art is silly. It's just like it's like Art Deco style, like sceneries. The colors on it are really pretty, and it's a really interesting push your luck. The way it works is fairly simple. You're trying to have the most points when somebody reaches 200 or more points, which is only about 20 minutes. It's pretty wild. It has effectively what's called a pyramid deck, where the numbers 1 through 12, that's how many points the cards are worth, but that's also how many copies there are. So there are 12 12s, there's 11 11s, down all the way to 1 card. There's also a 0 card that is one of those. And there's also 9 action cards. There's like a freeze, draw 3, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
And there's also some modifier cards, which add automatic bonus to your numbers, but don't count as number cards. The reason all this matters is because at the beginning of every round, you shuffle up the deck, deal everyone a card. And starting to the player on the dealer's left, they get to choose to either stay and score the numbers that they have, or draw another card. If they draw another card, they risk busting, which means that if you get 2 of the same number card, you bust, and you lose all the stuff you've gained.
Okay.
But otherwise, if you're adding a different number, and you keep adding different numbers, you're getting more and more points. So what you're trying to do at one point when you stay, let's say you have a 10, 11, and a 12, that's 33 points. That's pretty good, right? But if you get a 9 on top of that, that's 42. That's even better. So there's a lot of fun ways to get points. The modifier cards add points. If you get action cards, there's like a second chance where you can prevent yourself from busting, or playing a draw 3, you immediately make somebody draw 3 cards. Silly stuff, simple actions, works really well, and you can see when people like push too close to the sun, just how genuinely fun that game is. It's gotten great reaction so far. The components are decent. The box is over the top. It's unnecessarily large, but that's fine. And I genuinely enjoy it. It's really fun.
I do want to try it. It's funny because a lot of it you describe as almost like Dead Man Draw almost, or just any push your luck card game.
Yeah, there's a lot of push your luck games, yeah.
But the tagline, the greatest card game you've ever played. And I was sitting here thinking, like, what is the greatest card game I ever played? Because I play Little Devils a lot. I wouldn't say it's the best card game I've ever played, but speaking of card games, did you hear they're making a physical copy of Pickle? Or Pepper, that trick-taking game that you like.
Oh,
I forget. I think they just changed the name of it. It was on one of the Dice Tower, like either like crowdfunding or Dice Tower News. They're making Pepper.
I might have to check that. See if it's actually the same format that I play.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah,
that's cool.
I saw that and I immediately thought of you. And I'm like, that's probably your greatest card game you ever played is Pepper.
That's probably my favorite. Yeah, I mean it's so wholesomely like ingrained in our family now. So yeah.
So the next game I'm going to talk about, my third game on my list here, is not a Halloween game, but it is one that seriously was a very pleasant surprise for me. I bought this on there was like a massive deal. I think it was Miniature Market that had a deal. They had this for $5.
Okay.
I was like, okay, yeah,
I'll try almost any game for $5.
I want to try it. I'll pick it up. It helps get me into the free shipping. I was like near free shipping, so I'm like, all right, I'll put it in there. And I was like, you know what? I really do want to try it. So Gamehead Geek came over. Tuesdays he comes over. We play a couple games, just try to help narrow down our pile of shames. And so I tried this one because I'm like trying to determine if I'm going to keep it or if I'm going to take it for our Bookman's run and let someone else try it. And I was pleasantly surprised. This was a surprising hit for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I do want to play it with a higher player count because we only played it as a 2-player, but I really loved it. It's like a good mix of Ticket to Ride or Takenoko, Ticket to Ride Takedo mix because it's played in 3 rounds or days. Okay. And you play in 2 phases per round. During the day, you're skiing the slopes. So
okay, yes, you did tell me about this.
Yeah, so what you got to do is you got to draw. You have a set of cards in your hand. And the way it works, it's kind of Ticket to Ride style, is that if you want to go down the ski or the slopes, you have to play cards that are sets out of your hand. Either they have to be the same color or they have to be the same type of run. So mogul, slalom, slopes, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so there's multiple. There's only 3 colors. You have blue, red, and yellow. Those are the 3 colors, and then there's a wild card in there. So you have a tableau of cards that you're drawing the cards up for your hand, because every ski run is different. You do the bunny slopes, which are like the easy runs. You only need 2 of the same cards.
Makes sense.
If you're doing the medium or the advanced, I guess you can say, it's 4 cards of the same type, either color or the type of ski run. If you're doing the diamonds, those are the 7. You need 7 cards. There's no hand limit, so there's that. You can play wild cards out of your hand to help you with that, because they count as anything, so any color or any type. However, if you play 1 wild, you have to move the Yeti, who blocks a slope. So if you notice an opponent's trying to go through a certain path, you can block that path by playing 1 Yeti card in your wild. And the other thing is, if you play 2 Yetis in your hand, so like say I need to play 7 to go down this diamond track, I got to play 5 cards. I only have 5 cards of one type. I can play 2 Yetis. If you play 2 Yetis, you cause an avalanche.
Okay.
And then, so what happens with an avalanche is everybody goes down a slope. Everybody, including yourself. And if that forces you to go all the way down, then that's what happens. You don't get the points for going down the slopes based off the avalanche. You still get your points for doing the 1 run you did. However, you will get the fame if you end your turn at the right time. So if you were forced to go down the slope to the base camp, and it's the last turn of the round, then you will get your fame, because fame is used as a resource later on.
Yeah.
But that's the first phase of it. When you go through the certain amount of rounds, so I think it's like 4 turns in a day.
Yeah. First
person who is lowest on the mountain gets to go into the village phase, and that's where it's got the Takedo mechanism, is where they can go here, and if you're the furthest back, you can take a second action in there. And everything has really good powers. Like sometimes you'll get more fame, or you got to spend fame to get more cards, or you could spend cards and fame to give yourself a gear, and that kind of stuff. So you have that aspect to make it different for you or easier for you in the next day phase. And so there is also a randomization of the weather, depending on when you get to the end of the village phase. It's how many cards you get to draw for the next round. So if it's going to be a sunny day the next day, you get to draw 7 cards. But if it's going to be a snowy day, you only get so many cards, and then you don't have as much cards. So I haven't even mentioned like how you do your actions on the first thing. I just talked about going down the slopes.
Yeah.
But on your turn, you have 2 actions per turn. Is we either play your cards to go down the slopes, but how do you get up the slopes? You have to go up the ski lifts. You can always go up a ski lift for free as an action. Yeah. If you want a free action during the village phase, you need to pick up a ski lift token that gives you a free ride to keep going as a free action to go all the way up. So in my first turn, if I want to go all the way to the top and I don't have a ski lift, I have to take 2 turns to go up to the ski lift, and that ends my turn. The other one is to train, and that's how you draw cards out of your hand, a la Ticket to Ride, where you draw 2 cards out of the tableau, and it immediately refills. The first card immediately refills. Yeah. If you get 3 wild in there, it wipes, just like the locomotives in Ticket to Ride. If you draw 1 wild, it counts as both cards. And when you go into the phase where, in the village phase, there's a part of that where you can draw 3 cards off the tableau. The Yeti, the wild, which is the Yeti, counts as 2. So you pull that, and it flips down. If it flips down another Yeti, you can't pick it up because that's 4 cards. You could pick up a basic card and stuff like that. And then, as you're going down the slopes too, if you play the specific thing that's tagged there, so say moguls, you get extra bonus points. So it does a fantastic job on this. I really do like it. And this is Skull Canyon Ski Fest from Pandasaurus Games.
Next game I wanted to talk about was a party game that I picked up at a local thrift store, and I had heard about it. I saw it at like, it used to be sold at Target, and there's a few other places that I've seen it from time to time, and there's so many party games that are a dime a dozen, like word association games or whatever. It's hard for me to get excited about it, but I do remember there being some fairly positive reviews about this one, and I was like, okay, it's only like $3, so let's go ahead and pick up a copy. It turns out most of the decks were actually sealed when I opened it up. And I was like, that's even better. Okay, well, Now my liking is a little more exciting now. So this game is called Medium.
Oh yeah. I saw this, yeah.
So Medium, the way it works is really kind of interesting. You have these packs of cards. You shuffle them up. They all have words on it. You deal them out, and on a player's turn, you are automatically partnered with the player on your left. Okay. They are your partner, and you two have to have a psychic connection to say the same word. So your partner starts by playing a word. Let's say they play airplane.
Okay. And
then you respond with another word from your hand. Let's say I play owl. Then on a 3 count, you go 3, 2, 1. You say a word that matches both. That's the medium between both of them. So what would you say? Like let's try this. Like you play airplane, I play owl, right? Mm-hmm. We go 3, 2, 1, fly. Okay, right? So we would get the maximum points because that's pretty obvious.
Flight.
Oh, flight. Never mind. So, I think there's might be some wiggle room, but let's say you said something else, right?
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, let's say you said pizza, right? I don't know. Make something else up. Let's say you said flight, I said pizza. For some reason.
Dude, don't be eating owls. You get stabbed.
Right, exactly. It's an owl pizza, right? No. But either way, let's say we did not match, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have effectively 3 chances. If you get it the first try, you get a token that's worth somewhere between 5 and 6 points. Then, let's say we didn't. I say pizza, you said flight, okay?
Yeah.
We have a second chance. But it's not the original same words. It is now the 2 words we just said, and we have to say the medium between those 2. So we'd have to come up with something between pizza and flight, which I would say, okay, I know mine. 3, 2, 1,
Stewardess?
Delivery. Darn it. All right, so, and then we'd have to do delivery and stewardess, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe lunch? I don't know. Whatever, right? That's the game.
I was going to say meal, but sure, okay.
That's the thing. It's rare that you get one of the psychic connections on the first try, but when it happens, it's glorious, and it's so good. And they just claim it. The rules don't even say it like it's like, oh well, like you're trying to get the matches so you get points. No, it's like when you create that psychic connection, it is beautiful. And it's like really emphasized. It's like there's no chance here. It is psychic connection guaranteed. That's the only explanation. And they really ham it up and make it funny.
Okay.
I was really impressed by it. This immediately went onto my shelf. I was like, I like this game a lot. I will play this again. This is another new party game. It plays really easily. There's like 15 packs of cards. You always play with 1 pack fewer than the number of players. So it plays, I think, up to like 7 or 8 players or something like that. But it works well at 3. Okay. So I was impressed. Medium.
Nice. I do want to try this out. I keep seeing it all the time.
If you find on a deal, it was really impressive.
It looks interesting. I don't know how well it would go down in my other game group, but they do like shenanigan games. Like Things and Rings is a fun game with us, so we'll see. I think
your other group would really like this. I really do.
All right, so for the last game I'm going to talk about for this month, actually, which is funny, and this is also one of the rehashes of the Halloween series, is a game that Damn It Dom brought to the table. We really did enjoy this game because it worked really well for what we were expecting for this game. Because we saw it, it's like not really dudes on the map, but it's like a big thing of miniatures,
big
some
dark fantasy art,
cards.
you know.
I don't know anything about the IP of this. You and me were having to look it up, and like we were still confused. We were like, okay, is this
even a
novel?
book?
Yeah.
What is this? Like, is this a thing? Yeah.
And honestly, I'm shocked how well I actually enjoyed this game. It worked really well, especially for you, because it has pick and pass drafting.
Yeah, it does. It was one of those weird things. I'm not going to clamor too much on the other game we played that night, but the other game like had everything I would like in a game, and it didn't hit. This game has everything I don't like in a game,
and it hit.
And it was great.
Yeah, so the game I'm talking about is Court of the Dead, The Mourner's Call, I think is the full title of it.
Yeah.
It is a fun game with a combo of mechanisms that you would not expect. It's got pick and pass drafting that has an interesting concept there because you can either take this top power or this bottom power, and both of them are really well done and really well balanced too. You have kind of a little area control in there, more influence, majority of a section. You have like factions, asymmetry powers as you're going through the game because you're getting certain rewards and certain things. It's got a little push and pull mechanism because you're trying to balance the war between heaven and hell. So sorry for our religious viewers and stuff like that. So it does have like a balance of fighting heaven and hell, and so you're trying to make sure one's not raised more than the other, and you're trying to drop them. So it has a little more take thatty, but it kind of makes sense because there was a point where I'm like, I got to take you off of this because one, I need this to drop down over here for me to do something I need to do. Plus, it's going to stop you from scoring points. It's not like I'm trying to be like backstabby, but it made sense for what I was trying to do. Yeah. And so there is, like I said, there's a little bit of backstabby in it, but it's not, the take that is nowhere near as bad as you see in other games. But that's what he was talking about, is like, it's got area influence, control, pick and pass play, a little bit of take that, which can be good, but it did that really well in this game. Dudes on the map kind of thing, like large miniatures, kind of gave me like a feel of like Rising Sun or Blood Rage, because you have like those big monster creatures that like death. And the other thing, I love the power of the person who controls death can break one tie.
Yeah,
that's it. Pretty fun. It was just one tie. It's not the tiebreaker. It just allows you to choose to break one tie. And if you use it in the early part of the round, you can't use it in the later part of the round. So I love, and it gave a lot more meaningful choice than you would expect from a game like this. Yeah. So my last pick is Court of the Dead, The Mourner's Call. Fantastic game.
And my last pick, I couldn't agree more. I was really impressed by it. My last game is a game tradition that me and my family play each and every year around this time. And I was really excited because we weren't sure if we were playing it this week or next week, the day after Halloween. Yeah. We decided this one. It just made sense. My son was super excited about it. And this was the first year my daughter played it with us, which was really exciting. This is Nightmare from 1991.
Yes, Game Master?
Huh?
Is it Game Master or is it...
Yeah. No, not Game Master. What did you say?
You're supposed to say yes something to
Yes Master.
Yes Master, or something like that,
Yeah, something like that. And it's so dumb. Like, this game is just one of the best stupid games I've ever played. And like, it knows what it is. Yeah. It owns it. It's the dumbest, stupidest game ever, and it just hits every year. Because what you're doing is you're playing a simple game. It's roll and move. You roll a die, move that many spaces clockwise, activate whatever space it does. If it tells you to draw a time card, draw a time card. A fate card, draw a fate card. Whatever. There's a gravestone for each player. Or each character. When you land on that, something might happen. Yep. Depends. There's some spaces that are X's. When you land on the X's, well, that could be pretty bad. There's black holes, which you get stuck in. All sorts of stuff like that. All this game is fine. You're trying to collect 6 keys and be the first to the middle, and then not see your fear. Because you put your greatest fear on a card, and you mix up those cards, and as long as the first one who gets there, if they draw that, if that's their fear, then they're just eliminated. Poof, you're gone. Sorry, sucks for you. And if 2 or more players have the same fear and you draw the other player's one, but if it's still the same one, you're still out. Which is even better. It's so bad, but at the same time, you have 60 minutes to do all this. And the entire game, there is somebody, this actor, who is yelling at you, this over-the-top, ridiculous actor who's slowly turning into this evil being, changing the rules, like causing shenanigans, yelling at you, calling you maggot, and belittling you, having a staring contest with the old one, it's just hilarious. And there's parts in the game where you draw these time cards, and if a certain time frame hits on the VHS tape, or during the timer, you have to do the action, which might take out of turn, you might get bonuses, you might even have to scream and try and scare somebody, and if somebody startles, you get a free turn right away. It's just so awful. And my son pulled it off really well. He scared his sister. And my daughter almost drop-kicked the TV at one point because there's, not to spoil it or anything, so slight spoilers on the VHS if you've never played it. There's one point where he calls the young one up to him. He's like, He's like, come closer. I have something for you. Come closer. He's like, don't you ever get close to me again. And he's just like jump scares her basically. And she was she just jumped up and like almost kicked the TV. It was so good.
You gotta be careful. She's a cheerleader. She'll break your
She
TV.
is. She will. Oh my God. Man, like, this is a perfect example of games that weren't meant to be good. They were meant to be fun. Mm-hmm. And this is 100% it. Like, anybody who's too much of a gamer to play this game, come off your high horse, play this really dumb game, go into it knowing how stupid it is, and you're gonna love it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Here's my problem with those kind of gamers. Look, I get it. I like to be challenged. It's fun to... I have some heavy games. But there is nothing wrong with playing a dumb, stupid game just to have fun. Mm-hmm. Games are made to be fun. Mm-hmm. Yes, they can be thinky. Yes, they can be where it gives you that mental exercise that a lot of people have. But sometimes I just want to play something that makes me giggle like an idiot. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like my favorite dumb games. Another game we played somewhat recently, I showed some people, is like Are You Dumber Than a Box of Rocks? Yeah. Because that game just hit, like you'd be... By the way,
I can't believe I bought that.
Number 2 is Dumber Than a Box of Rocks.
Very often. Oh my God, do I lose to that game so often. And it's just so ridiculous. And the Box of Rocks shouldn't be that good.
The one time I beat it, so one time I played it, I did beat it, and I retired. Because I was smarter than a Box of Rocks.
I will never test fate again.
Exactly.
It's so good. That number 4, Nightmare.
Yeah, and another one that we're talking about, like just a stupid, dumb, fun game. Time's Up is a fantastic game, but because of the charades part of it, that's where it really goes. And so get off your high horse. Enjoy the stupidity sometimes.
100%. Well, let's get into today's episode. But before we do, Daniel, what are we doing?
We are giving away a copy of Ultimatch. Again, continental United States. As you can see, this is my copy. The one you're getting is in the cornucopia up there. It's a sealed copy, brand new, from Fireside Games. Justin and Anne-Marie DeWitt, fantastic people. I paid for it personally, but they were off. They are
not sponsoring us. We love them.
Yeah, we
support their product, and we want you to also.
As
so
we
want you to chance to play
got
this.
Castle Panic right up there.
Yep.
So we love them. They're some of the best board gaming people. So we want to support them and show off a game for them as well. In fact, this was like one of our highlights at the Gamma Expo when we saw this game, and playing it with Tabletop Bellhop as well as Fireside Games. Yep. So how you can win your copy of this, again, Continental USA, tell them how.
All right, so there's multiple ways to enter. First off, we stream our episodes live on twitch.tv. If you follow us here and you're able to get notified when we do our live episodes, whenever we're not troubleshooting, of course, you get a free automatic ticket. That's one of the ways. So we're going to tell you 10 ways to get tickets. Secondly, if you buy a subscription to this, that helps us keep the podcast running. We appreciate your support. That gives you 3 additional tickets.
And you can use your free Prime if you have it.
Yep, if you have Prime and you get 1 free subscription to Twitch, you can use that for us. That still benefits us.
And it still gives you the 3 tickets.
Absolutely.
Mind you, it is not required. It's greatly appreciated if you do.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, it just helps us keep it running. Next, we have Instagram. Follow us on Instagram.com/everydayboardgames, where we post silly stuff. Watch our content. You'll probably enjoy it anyway. Mm-hmm. That gives you an automatic ticket. We upload these videos to YouTube. If you go to YouTube and subscribe to us there, that is another ticket.
Yep.
And then finally, there is 4 additional tickets left. On how do you enter those? You listen to last week's episode, this week's episode, next, and the following week's episode. We are giving a code word for each of those episodes. So if you find that code word, you email us to everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. Subject line, put contest. Down below, put a way to contact you and the code word, and you will be entered as additional tickets for each of those episodes that you enter in. So 10 total tickets, a lot of ways to enter. No purchase necessary, obviously. Mm-hmm. Again, we appreciate the support if you do it. But again, you have a chance to win that. So what is our code word today?
Today's code word is hungry.
Absolutely. Hungry is our code word. The reason we picked that one is because, first off, it's turkey season. And secondly, we're talking about our senses today.
Ain't that the truth?
Right? So you ready to go into today's episode, Daniel?
Yes, this is such a weird episode, as I was mentioning on the top of the episode, because, like I said, the way I have it worded down is like my top 4 really work for their senses. Yeah. So those top 4, and spoiler alert, is going to be touch, and it's going to be sound.
Okay.
My bottom 4 are the abstracted ones, and that's going to be smell and taste.
Yep.
Because I am not looking at a board game, as I said earlier. That is not going to happen. But this is a bit of a different aspect of it, but I think it works.
Right.
Now, I rated this in my top 8, what fits the thing the best. So my number 8, I like better than some of the other games on my list. But it's more abstracted than anything.
I took mine and I put them in rank by how satisfying they personally are to me. Okay. Like so, and I'll be showing the ones that I can, of course, or I'll show you the sounds of the ones that you can hear.
Yeah.
But that is the limit of what I'm going to be doing. But I wanted to showcase that it's like the higher up on the list, the more satisfying it is to me personally. And even my wife was. I told my wife about this list earlier today. I was like, so. What do you think about like different senses in board games? And I described it to her, and she was like, "Oh, you mean like this, and then this, and then this?" And then she got mad at me. She's like, "Why aren't you writing these down?" I'm like, "Because I agree. I already have them. Don't get me wrong. We agree on a lot of these." She did recommend one other, and I already wrote down my list.
Yeah.
But I will bring it up in my honorable mentions because she gave me a really good example of one.
And so, like I said earlier, when this was described to me, it was to be the other senses, not sight. That's how I made my list. I do have some site recommendations for my honorable mentions when we get to at the end of the episode.
And I only have one during my list. So, let's get into today's episode. Our number 8 best sense in board game. I'm going to be starting us off. I did bring a quick example because outside of the 5 traditional senses, there is a whole slew of other senses. Mm-hmm. And while I was looking at that, I was like, I'm just curious at what some of them are. And most of them don't apply to board gaming at all, at least not in a positive way. Like pain is a sense, temperature, stuff like that. Those don't really apply so much. But there was one that I was like, that I thought was really interesting. And I feel like there's a lot of games that actually do use this sense in a way that I think is really gratifying. And that's balance, like equilibrium, right? Yeah. So I brought this little example. This is like a weird little wooden abstract
To our
game.
audio listeners, again, I'm sorry, he does not listen to
audio listeners, just Google. It's a game called Rock Me Archimedes, and it is basically a wooden seesaw with grooves for marbles in it. Mm-hmm. And the idea is you roll a die. It tells you how many spaces you move one of your marbles. You can move it to either side, it doesn't matter, or introduce a marble. The idea is that you need to balance them so that they don't fall, or that the teeter doesn't fall and hit the table. If it ever hits the table, any one of the sides, you're immediately lost. But you're trying to get all 6 of your marbles over to the side. So you're trying to balance out like which ones it is. Like, go ahead and move one of the marbles over one real quick. Oh, and as soon as you lift it, you'll see it shift a little bit, and then it does this cool little teeter thing as it moves over. So you're trying to maneuver that balance. And I picked this because there's a lot of games that use that similar balance thing. This is just a perfect example of it. But like Jenga, Rhino Hero, when you're moving that little piece over, or even like any like little dexterity games where you feel like the moment where the weight of the piece moves off of your hand and rests on the other stuff, and you have that sense where you sit back and you go, okay, we're good, all right. Like Rhino Hero especially, Animal Upon Animal is another good example of that. And there's plenty of others, right, that do that sense of, Viking Seesaw is another one that's like getting a lot of press right now.
Well, that's because that's Knizia.
That's part of it, true. But it is one of those, like, it's Viking Seesaw is essentially that game, except with just weird, different bits. It's kind of weird. So, balance is my first one, and any balance game, take your pick. But I picked specifically Rock Me Archimedes as the example.
Yeah, and so again, for our audio listeners, sorry, today's episode is going to be full of show and tell because of this guy. I have not done it.
Not too many.
I have not done it because I respect our listeners as well. The viewers can understand what we're talking about because they can look behind us and see board games. Actually, a couple of my board games are behind me, so... so the one I'm going to talk about first, and again, these are more the abstracted side of things, is smell. And for me, this one is Arc Nova. And the reason being is because I visit zoos a lot.
Right. I see where you're going.
I can get that invocation of the smell of a zoo. Because, specifically, when you build a reptile house, every time I build one when I play this game, I just instantly go...
You know that.
I know that smell, that mustiness, that stink that you get when you go into a reptile house. Sometimes even in the primate houses or just the rainforest aspect of things. But you know that musty smell you go into these places. Same thing with like the aviaries that you go into. So... And you get those in the game of Arc Nova because you are building a zoo and trying to work as zoologists in making it a better place for these animals and trying to help them with their endangerment. So for me, and plus, my biggest thing, I put a little quick note here, plus you get coffee breaks, and you all know I love me some coffee, so that's going to invoke some thoughts for me as well. So for me, I went with Arc Nova just because of I can... get that memory of the smell. Like, I literally just went to the Denver Zoo not too long ago, and I immediately thought of, like, man, I should play Arc Nova. I haven't played this game in a while.
Now you have that cross-association. Sure.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, okay, this could go on the list, even though it's very subjective and very abstracted. So
Absolutely. All right, you ready to go on to our number 7s?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I'll be starting this one off. So, Daniel, I'm going to make a plea for you real quick.
No,
hear me out. You've always been a generous host, like for the podcast and your game nights. And this is the only one I have for taste. And the reason I say I'm going to make a plea real quick is because one of my favorite things, I always have, it's not a game specifically, but it's reminiscent of my game nights. Me and my wife always buy like bowls of candy and all this stuff that we bring and have available for our guests to have and stuff. And I feel like the snacks having the snacks in like during a game night is a really important thing. Like, it's being a good host. It's associated. And that's really the only time I sit there and have little.
Oh, so snacks. You're saying I'm not being a good host?
No, I'm saying you're being an incredible host. And because of you being willing to let me do this ridiculous podcast, I'm giving you a plea here as a thanks. And some peanut butter M&Ms because I know you can have these, and and I bought myself some M&Ms as well. I like the peanut ones, so we got some snacks here.
Yeah. That
after we're done with the podcast we can enjoy, because I really do think that this is the best example of like taste during a board game. Because you associate these snacks. Again, I don't really eat chocolate or candy unless I'm gaming. So if I have a piece of candy, I'm thinking, man, what game should I play? So that's why I brought these ones. Snacks during board game night. That is my number 7 for favorite sense in board gaming.
Okay, yeah. So it's funny enough.
It's a stretch, I admit.
Funny enough, and that's not even a board game. I went all board games on here.
Okay, well, give me the M&Ms back. That's good. Well, if you're gonna be that way.
That's okay. I got a big bag in the other.
I know. I couldn't think of any others that I knew that you could have. I knew you could have those. So I'm like, those are the ones.
Yeah. But. So the one that I'm going with taste is just because I eat this food all the time. This is literally a food game. Oh, not all the time. I used to eat it all the time. My wife's not a fan of this, so I don't get it as often as I used to. And it's technically nowadays called Maki Masters.
Oh, okay.
It was originally called Wasabi. And, I could have put Sushi Go in here and stuff like that, but those pictures are too cutesy. I don't really get hungry one day. I mean, I get hungry.
A sad, sad scream.
But if you just look at this picture behind us over here, since we know doing show and tell, like I said, you'll see it in the background if you want to ever go video. But it invokes that taste.
It does.
Especially the wasabi. I know the taste of wasabi. It's like that horseradish, that little spiciness. It is fantastic. I love wasabi a lot. And so I used to eat a lot of sushi, like the eel, the tuna, and stuff like that. And it sucks because I would always have to go out of town to eat sushi. Because the place that I could get sushi shut down years ago. And the big reason why is because every other sushi place here in town makes it in a way that I can't have sushi because they make it with avocado, which I'm allergic to. But Maki Masters really gives me that memory of downing sushi, the nigiri, the tempura, the wasabi, of course, and then how you're trying to make a meal out of all the different stuff. So you're trying to get the shrimp, you're trying to get the eel in the proper thing to have a certain roll or a certain meal, and I'm like, that really invokes that taste for me, and it's a fantastic game. I really do enjoy it. It's another one that I want to play with more players. I've only ever played it as 2 players. But Kids Table Board Games knocked it out of the park. The re-implementation of Wasabi with Maki Masters. So, for me, taste Maki Masters.
All right, that was our number 7. Now going on to our number 6.
And this one starts with me. And going back to smell here. And this one is abstracted in a sense, but not so much, because it's based off a TV show. Ravensburger came out with a game. You can see it in our background here, called The Great British Baking Show, The Game. And the reason why I invoked it as smell is because my wife has baked a lot of those recipes in there before I decided to go into my diet that I'm on, where it's low carbs and stuff like that. But we've had a lot of the breads that are in there, a lot of the cakes, the biscuits, those kind of things. And so when we're playing this game, I'm like, hey, I know that. I've tried that. I've tasted that. And the big thing about when it comes to baking, more so than taste, is that smell. When you smell like fresh bread in the oven, or cupcakes, or cakes, or my personal favorite was like these Chelsea buns that she would make that was made with orange and cranberries. Fantastic stuff, and that's in there. And so this was the easiest one, even though it is abstracted, to put on this list, because when I play that game, I look at the thing and I'm like, I've smelt that before. I know what this is. I know how it tastes. I know how it smells. And it's just a beautiful aroma when you smell baking in the house. And so I had to put that game on the list, and that is the Great British Baking Show, The Game.
I have a quick question for you, Daniel. How many? I was going to ask you earlier. How many crossovers do you think we're going to have between us?
Maybe one.
Maybe one. Okay. I thought it was going to be more. So this next one.
Oh God! Show and tell again.
Nope, it's for feel, and I bring this out because I know people will know what I'm talking about. So audio listeners, you're going to hear.
It's going to get really loud, so if you're using headphones...
I'm going to be as quiet as I can on it.
He's not, because he's rude.
We'll do our best. But either way, I want you guys, even if you're watching this on the video, close your eyes for a minute and just imagine if you know what this sound is, right? This is specifically for feel, but you'll know why
Marbles.
I'm making that sound. This is a bag of tiles, specifically from Azul. Sticking your hand into this bag of tiles is easily one of the most satisfying feelings I've ever felt in board games. Anytime that specifically plastic tokens, there is a game, Spellbook from Phil Walker Harding. Mm-hmm. That's another good example of that. There is a few others where, like,
if you get the upgraded bits for Quacks of Quedlinburg.
If you get the upgraded bits for Quacks of Quedlinburg, you know that feeling every turn. But reaching in and grabbing these tiles is very, very gratifying. I like it a lot. I know you're not a fan for whatever reason, but this was one of those that me and my wife agreed on instantly. Is just, and this wasn't even her first idea. She was like, "Oh yeah, you know, like those gem tokens and stuff that you can just pick up and like start swishing around in your hands." Mm-hmm. She was like, "The best one is probably Azul." I'm like, "I know, I bring in the bag. It's so good." Yeah, the Azul tiles, the bag of plastic tokens.
Our audio listeners, they're probably like, "Why are they playing with marbles?"
It does sound like marbles, doesn't it? Yeah. But again, those plastic tokens in the bag, just having so many of them, it just has such a satisfying clank in your hand. That was my feel. That's my first for feel.
Okay.
That was number 6. On to our number 7s.
All right. So, you mean our number 5s?
On to our number 5s. I was just checking to see if you were awake.
All right. So my number 5 is the last of the abstracted ones. This could go with Sight, because the freaking artwork that they did in this game makes this ridiculous. But everybody knows the taste of pizza. Everybody loves pizza, cheesy bread, stuff. I know you don't, because you have no taste. Mm-hmm. And so for me, this is actually one of my favorite I Split You Choose games, and this is New York Slice. Again, pizza. I could put this easily into smell too. So it has that abstract. And the thing is, like, these pizza slices in this game look like it's like they almost like screen pressed like photos of pizzas on there,
Mm-hmm.
but you can tell it's artwork and it's fantastic. So I was like, I see a pepperoni pizza, I'm like, I really want that. And then I see one that has like anchovies on it, I'm like, no, get that away from me, and that kind of stuff. And then the way you score in this game is dependent upon what your set collection. So maybe you don't want the anchovies because I think they give you negatives and stuff like that, or a supreme pizza or anything like that. So yeah, for me, New York Slice had to go on this list because for two reasons. I like pizza. I eat more cauliflower crust pizza nowadays than anything. Mm-hmm. But also, every time I play this game, I get hungry and I want pizza. And so, because I look at that, I'm like, I just could taste my favorite pizza place by looking at that. I'm like, that looks like the pepperoni pizza I get from this place, and that just looks really delicious. And so, for me, even though it's very abstracted, because of that artwork, it really invokes that me wanting to get a pizza. And usually after I play this, I make a pizza or I order a pizza from somewhere. So, New York Slice.
Cool. All right, my number 5. This one is my second and last of the feel category. And this is just, I feel like this is one of the best like feeling items in gaming. It's a playmat. That's what I brought out here. I have my Splendor playmat. And the neoprene.
You didn't even have to bring a playmat. I have like a closet full of them over there.
Oh, I know. I just grabbed it because it was on my list and it was real easy. But like when you double layer it, or even get like the kind of like neoprene that they sell at like Joann's Fabrics or like fabric stores and stuff, it has this extra squishy quality to it. It's a very satisfying feeling. I see why they use it for mouse pads and like other keyboard pads and all that stuff. Neoprene just feels great.
It's good with cards. That's the main reason I like it.
It's fantastic with cards, and the fact that it's... So, originally they used to use felt, right? And that gives you that extra little bit of squish. This is like felt on steroids, right?
And the main reason they use felt, because that's just what they use for poker tables.
Right, exactly. And it made sense for poker tables, because you don't want to be like using your fingernails to pick up cards or anything. You want something that you can squish, you can get under, that you can pop up, push down one side, pop up the other. Real simple. And that's why they use these playmats for that. I feel like neoprene just brings out one of the best feelings. If you get yourself like a whole table cover of neoprene, oh man, like count me in, man.
I've been planning
so good.
I want to get. I don't know where to do it because I want to get it stitched as well.
Oh yeah.
But I want to get a 6-foot by 3-foot neoprene mat and put it on my table this way when we're playing games there.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, I use it for
get
my
a blue one with
table.
our logo right in the middle.
Oh, there you go. Man, for days that would be brilliant. So neoprene mats, I feel is like one of the best feelings in board gaming.
All right.
There was actually a board game that had neoprene like on tiles, like glued to the tiles. It was like a racing game from I think Ultra Pro back in the day. It was really wild. Yeah, it blew my mind. Anyway, that was number 5.
Moving to number 4s and starting with me again. So my number 4s, these are not abstract anymore. I do get these feelings invoked to me because of what the games do. And it's not just basically the mechanisms or something like that. Because this game is mechanistically doesn't have anything to do with touch. But the choices the publisher made for this specific game is fantastic. And for me, this is touch. And this is tapestry, because they do stuff that's really unique in here, like the player boards, because they have that little felty almost feeling on there just to keep the cards from sliding around when you're putting them on that playmat. I love the way that feels. The issues with the doing the what is it, the rule book, the way that paper feels. Yeah. That stuff is really cool.
Linen finish.
The linen finish on the rule book, not even the cards. Yep. The rule book is fantastic. Another thing too, and a big part of it is because it doesn't want to have the things moving around on your player board as someone hits the table. It doesn't jut around as bad.
Yeah.
Another reason I really like it is that even though they're plastic pieces, they have that rubbery feel, and so it just it feels great as a game. You have like that really cool touch on the little feltiness touch on the player boards, but then when you're messing with your stuff on the board, they don't feel like hard plastic. They have that rubbery texture to them, and I really do enjoy that one. This is literally the first game I thought about to put on this list when we're talking about the other senses, because how that touch.
There's a lot of care taken into that,
and it's fantastic. I really do enjoy the way this works.
Cool. My number 4 is the only one that I put on the list was Sight, and I just thought it was something really special that they did. And there's only a few games that actually did this. This is when when board game publishers utilize the box cover and the edges or other box covers to create something special. And I've seen like the wrapping where you could put like the edges of the boxes together and it makes like a panorama. But the one that I think is the best example of that, the one that I brought in,
You're gonna have to get you a new chair if you're gonna keep reaching for crap because it's squeaking like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. The one I brought in was Century Spice Road, which you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you got Century Spice Road, the second one and the third one, and had them side by side, it creates one panoramic picture. And also, I mean, there's a lot of games that have it where the box sides can branch together as well, or you can have like a single box cover and then another game sideways next to it, or even like the top of it up above or the bottom below. And if it's put in a certain position, it creates a much larger picture. And it's a really cool aspect to gaming that I've always appreciated, that I feel like it would have been easier for them to not do that, but they took that extra time.
Which they did. They didn't do it in the Century Golem editions.
Right, they didn't. But that's kind of this. And see, you're shaking your head, right? That proves how satisfying that little thing is. It's so neat how it's completely different between the box sides, the box covers, and how you can make a panorama because of it. Either way, I like it. Century Spice Road, that is my only site when they do panoramic box wraps or a box effect to that.
Is that your last show and tell? Because that's half your stuff is show and tell.
I have props for everything.
No.
I don't need to show it anymore. But I still have other senses that they'll.
Dear God.
Yeah. Go on.
All right, you got to flip the coin.
Oh yeah. We're on to our number 3. Here we go. I see we're thrown off because of all the technical stuff, right? All right, my number 3. Here we go. This is the first sound one that I have to demonstrate, and this, I think, if we had a crossover, this would be our crossover, hands down. I have my felt wooden dice tray here, and you guys are going to know what this sound is. Here we go. Let me grab my dice. Here we go. Audio listeners, be prepared. I'm about to roll dice into a dice tray, so you know what's coming. I'm warning you. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Let me just do that for a couple
I already got enough trouble with what's going on with OBS. You have to do show and tell.
I'm not showing it. I'm letting them experience it. Listen to ooh. You tell me that's not satisfying. All my D&D players, they know what's up. They know what the sound is. Especially when it clacks against the side. Ooh, that's good. That's my number 3. A wooden dice tray with dice.
I am not allowing you to bring any more props. This is getting ridiculous. All right, moving into my number 3 here. And I guess it's kind of a crossover, but again, I strictly went with games. And so this is literally rolling dice into a dice tray per se. But it's more along the lines of throwing dice into a dice tray. And this is Strike.
Oh, yeah. So that was the game that my wife referenced when I told her about this one.
And so
but she's never rolled it into the wooden tray.
Yeah, so I was thinking more along the dice clicking, the plastic bowl that it goes into works really well. The groans at the table helps too when they're like, oh, that just bounced out of the table, and you just hear clicking around the table.
Yep.
That aspect of it. It's just a fun-filled game. There's different versions of it. You can get the one that's all about the elements. There's a Harry Potter version, which is what I own. Or you could just get the basic one where you're just trying to be the last person standing with dice. There is a little bit of player elimination, but it does what it needs to do really well. And so my pick is Strike.
Cool. On to our number 2s. You know, the only reason I didn't pick Strike is just because...
Because you want to annoy me with that.
No, I don't like the plastic tray as much as I like a wooden tray.
Nah, I like the plastic tray because it evokes more of a sound.
Yeah.
I'm starting this one?
Yep, you are.
All right, my number 2 is my Last of Touch, and this one was another one that was easily on me. I had to get a flicking game into this one, but it's not just about flicking in that aspect. It is more touch on your booty too. And this one for me is crokinole because they have the one cheek rule, and so you can feel like the pressure on your backside.
What? You say minor shenanigans? What is going on?
No, dude, you got to hear me out. You have the one cheek rule, so you feel the pressure when you're trying to lean into your shot. But you also have that grit that they use in the crokinole that you feel to help the flicking the figure going across the slide, and it can work for sound too because when you hit that peg when you're trying to flick it to the thing, it works. Or when you get a satisfying when you get it into the center hole, you're like yes. But just that touch, the grit from that specialized sand they use for the crokinole tournaments, the discs that you're playing against, how they feel really smooth and fantastic. So crokinole, but it uses more than just your hands for touch too, because like they have that rule where you have the one cheek, so you can start feeling pressure in different parts of your body, and then you have to make sure you're not standing up, so you have to make sure you're still on your chair, so you got to make sure that pressure's there. So for me, crokinole was another easy one because it has just that weird aspect where you're not just using your hands for touch. You have other. You have to keep your feet on the floor, so you got to make sure that's there. You got to make sure you have the pressure on what you're trying to do. You cannot leave the seat by any means. You can lean as much as you want, but you can't leave the seat. So
it goes into my number 8 with balance, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, like, and I don't want this to sound like I'm disagreeing with you because I agree with you 100%. But your number 2 is technically touch on your butt. Like, I mean, it's like
it's what it is. But
you're
the
not
thing
wrong,
is,
but I just wasn't expecting that. That's all I'm saying.
It's a fact that it's using touch in other parts of the body. You always just expect it to be in the hands.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I had to do it in this one because the one cheek rule is just ridiculous.
It really is. Okay, so my number 2, this is the last of my sound ones, and this is so much that I can't help it. You were talking about touching your butt. Come on now. Don't shake your head at me.
They didn't have to hear me touching my butt, all right?
Thank goodness. Then we'd have a lawsuit on our hands, right? We'd have to cancel the podcast. We'd be removed from all our airways. No, this is the one that everybody knows. This is the sound of riffling, shuffling cards. Mm-hmm. Like, that is such a gratifying sound, you know. Even to the point where different cards have different sounds. That is my playing card sound. I brought in a deck of cards just so I can show that, of course. But not that I need to, because we know that sound. And everyone knows it. The thicker the card, the thinner the card. They have different pitches to them, which doesn't sound like it'd be true, but it absolutely is. Magic the Gathering cards are way stiffer. They're like 320-pound paper. And so it has a much more clackier sound. Thinner cards have this nice, nice low resonance. Very good. I like it. Riffle shuffling cards, specifically playing cards.
That's it. From now on, we are making sure there is no more show and tell or listen and tell on our board anymore.
You're talking about touching your butt. I call shenanigans.
No, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Everything. No more.
Nope.
Flip the coin.
All right. On to our number 1 best senses in board game. I'm starting this off. And so earlier, like I said, I brought out a deck of cards. This was the one that started the whole list for me. Is I have a brand new sealed deck of cards. I was going to get a booster pack of Magic for this, but this is easily my number 1. The smell of new cards. It is so delicious. It smells like an office, Max. It smells like an office printing. I would love to visit a factory for this because the smell of a brand new deck of cards, or the smell of as soon as you unseal the plastic from a deck of cards, that is magical. I encourage everyone who's listening to this, despite Daniel's chagrin right now and his annoyance, as soon as you open up a new pack of cards, take it out of the cellophane and open that box, take a smell. It is a wonderful, wonderful smell. Especially TCG players, you know what I'm talking about. When you crack open that booster pack, that smell is amazing. It is unique. The smell of printer, paper, ink, cardstock, it's wonderful. A lot of new board games will give you that sense as well if it's mainly cardboard. This has had to be my number 1. This is one that I've been championing forever. New card smell. Number 1 best sense.
Alrighty then. All right, my number one is also sound as well. Not smell, but it's a sound that you did, 2 ago? Or the dice thing, whatever it is. But this one was easily going to be my number one. One, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It is one of our ascended games of all time. And what they did for this game, you wouldn't even need everything else that they did for this because of the way it invokes sound. And this is Return to Dark Tower.
Yep.
And what I'm talking,
I thought about this.
I'm talking about with this sound is like you don't need the app. You need the app to play the game, but you don't need the app and the sound that's coming from it. You don't need the Bluetooth speaker that the thing does. Just when you drop that skull and you hear it bouncing around that dice tower,
yes,
or that skull tower in this sort of aspect, what it does is just that tension you just start feeling when you're hearing that, because you're wondering, is it going to come out on one of the sides over here that we got to worry about it? But then they go next level with the app integration. So you hear like that scary music in the background, like when you drop that skull and it's like, there's an event. This is what's going to happen. Or the the horns that are going on because someone's coming into the game. That's good. Might be helpful for you if you can get that person into your game. But the one that really invokes fear in people's heart when they play this game is when you hear the zzz, the motors as it's turning, and next thing you hear is vroom, 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 and it means you have to take off a piece of the Dark Tower, and everything's dropping at you. And you're like, oh my god, why are all the skulls on this this side of things? It is such a beautiful implementation of using sound to create tension in a board game. And Restoration Games knocked it out of the park with this one. Between the skull drop and the releasing, the app integration, the Bluetooth speaker, just to really invoke that sound in this game, it's fantastic.
Cool. So yeah, those are our top best senses in board gaming. Let's talk about a few of the honorable mentions. And of course, if you're listening, if you have any honorable mentions, let us know as well in the comments or in our chat below. One of the ones that I wanted to bring this up that my wife said as well. It's games that make you feel hungry because of like the set, like
what I've been talking about.
And that's what you brought up a little bit. But like I thought of Donut Shop when I saw it because of the way that they do the art on that. Like the glaze looks shiny, and you're like, man, I kind of want to don't. That was the first game that I played it, and I was like, I really want donuts right now, and you know, I felt like I wanted that food.
Okay, so mine with the sight aspect of things. And I have two games just strictly for sight because those are the honorable mentions because I didn't do them. The first one, even though it annoys you, it draws people in, and this is the Everdell tree. The game is Everdell. When you have that tree built up, I remember the first time I saw it at a convention, I was like, "Oh, what is that?" Because you have that that tree just standing in the middle of the table. The artwork's fantastic in there because Andrew Bosley's just amazing. Yeah. But that's one of those things that's just going to invoke the sight. That if you play this game in a convention, it's going to draw people over to the table because they want to find out what that is. And so that's how I was introduced to Everdell, and now I have everything for it. So for me, Everdell's sight.
I was also thinking the poker chips from Splendor, like both not only for feel, but the sound like when you're clacking them together, right? I thought that would be a good example of those too. I had too many sounds. I feel like the bag of tokens and the dice rolling just is more synonymous and just have more of a groundwork for it. But yeah, I mean, the Splendor poker chips was another one of mine.
And the last one for sight that I put in down here, and again, it's along the same line as the Everdell tree. It's a more recent game that we have both played. And it's just because the way it's set up, you have these gorgeous resin planets on the board. This is Last Light. Especially now, I should be getting my new Kickstarter from it here soon with the expansion. But I also paid for the battery sun for the middle, so now it's going to be lit up in the middle of the game. The look like a white star and stuff like that. Cool. So it's just another one that just invokes and draws people over to look at it because of those resin planets. The rest of the board kind of just looks But if I'm across the hall, I was like, what are those planets? What are they playing over there? Those look like giant marbles. What's going on? Yeah. And I want to go investigate. And that's the purpose of a site. That's why you see a lot of these games with this fantastic artwork, because the first thing that they're going to invoke is sight. We were looking at a game the other day at Bookman's Planetarium. When you say this is one of the best looking covers ever, and then you showed us the back of the board,
and you're like,
and you're like, oh, okay.
I'm
but
sure
at least the
fine,
cover
but,
drew you in.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And so sight was a really big proponent. And then when you see these on the table, that's going to draw you in.
Absolutely. And the last one I thought of could also be either sound or feel was punching tokens out of a punch board. Because I know a lot of people who think that that's just really cathartic. I'm fixing to go do that when I get home today because we got all those new games.
I did that all last night.
Yeah, I did not have the ability to do that last night, but I definitely thought about it. So that's probably going to be my task tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. So, again, let us know what you think about our episode. If you want to see more, just ridiculous stuff. We come up with ridiculous ones every once in a while. So, we want to remind you that there is a contest going on for Ultimatch by Fireside Games. Again, there's multiple ways to enter. We'll tell you about a couple right now. First off, our code word. Again, that was hungry. Hungry was our code word. So, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. In the contest, or in the subject line, put the word contest in the body, put a way we can contact you with that code word hungry. That is today's episode. And also follow us on Instagram.com/everydayboardgames or search at everydayboardgames on Instagram to find us and follow us there. That enters you in the contest as well.
As well as all video re-uploads and reviews, and lately, shorts are found on YouTube at youtube.com/everydayboardgames. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe, which gives you a ticket. If you're not there, like the video and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. What games invoke your senses on this one?
Theoretically, we stream our episodes live every week on twitch.tv/everydayboardgames. Daniel is laughing because this episode has been a dumpster fire as far as our streaming goes.
Yeah.
But, even worse than normal. We've had some troubles
very
lately.
much so.
But we do really appreciate our Twitch audience. We love interacting with people live. And that's why we're still doing it despite the annoyances. Hopefully we'll get it resolved soon. Twitch.tv/everydayboardgames. Follow us there to get 1 free ticket. Subscribe to us if you want to help support our podcast for 3 additional contest tickets.
And always, our audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcasts, including Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple. And this is how you guys can enter with the code word if you listen to it here.
Mm-hmm. So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.